Hi, Emily. I'm excited that we were able to find a time today to chat.
Amazing. So, with our power chats, we're going to get right into it. We'd love to hear a little bit about you and your background, and then we're going to get into an area of expertise that you have so much knowledge on. So, without further adu, if you could just situate us in like you and how you came to your expertise in social impact.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I'll touch on the beginning and go through my story a little bit. But my original background was my undergraduate degree, which was in environmental sciences, with an emphasis on natural resources. And at that time, I really thought I wanted to become an environmental lawyer. So I started working as a Senate page for a congressional season. I worked for the Public Policy Center in Lincoln, Nebraska, where I studied water law and state jurisdiction between Colorado, Kansas, and Nebraska. And then eventually started working at the National Park Service in their landscape planning department. Such an interesting organization. They have such a great impact. But working in the landscape planning department, I got to work as a GIS analyst on evaluating new trails and segments for those areas. In 2013, I had the experience of getting furloughed. So that caused a career change that it was unexpected. So I moved up to Seattle to try to find a way to intersect my undergraduate experience with a new role. So in the Pacific Northwest, there is the incredible sports industry, outdoor sports industry, where I started working at K2 and then eventually moved over to Brooks Running, and really building my career in like demand generation and email marketing. There was an opportunity, though, to move into corporate sustainability at Brooks Running. And they were manufacturing their products in over 65 countries. And so it was an incredible opportunity to be able to touch on all aspects of a corporate responsibility program, all the way from social responsibility, product sustainability, to climate action programs within our own four walls of the offices where we operated, to diversity, equity, inclusion efforts. And then also touching on social impact and giving that was occurring. And the work that I was doing was around like corporate responsibility reporting. So tracking all of those metrics across all of those massive areas can be incredibly difficult. So that was one of the things that I did while I was at Brooks Running, and then eventually moved over to Convoy, where I continued to learn or drive more climate action work, and then lead a corporate sustainability program.
Amazing. So you have incredible experience, you know, working with manufactured goods and so much more. So what I wanted to touch base with you on today is something that I think is super interesting that often is an overlooked opportunity, I think, in the social impact landscape, which is in-kind donations. So to state the obvious, from a sustainability perspective, if you have goods, whether those be apparel or shoes or, where I come from in the food landscape, which is, you know, obviously an opportunity to make in-kind donations at scale, right? Like, so whatever it is, I know that in manufacturing, people are constantly picking up the phone and saying, hey, we've got extra pallets of blah, blah, whether it's stale dating or it's the wrong color or whatever, like there isn't a day that goes by that people aren't trying to figure out how to donate stuff, right? Is that fair to say?
Oh, absolutely. It's a massive challenge figuring out those systems.
So I'm wondering if you could walk me through kind of what you walked into from an in-kind giving kind of landscape, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then how you brought it into something that was more streamlined and effective.
Absolutely. Well, the place where I worked with this at the largest scale was at Brooks Running, where we were manufacturing products, as I said, in many different countries. A huge issue in apparel and footwear industry is returns. So returned products and also defective products that don't meet our standards of quality when they're going through the process. But they are not meeting those standards because maybe colorway issues, things that aren't going to cause like an actual like safety issue or injuries. It's just that it wasn't the right color that was expected. In my first year of actually managing the corporate responsibility report and trying to understand how much volume of product we were donating in 2019 at the time, um, even though we had had a corporate sustainability program that was around since 2011, there was no standardized approach for how we were tracking in-kind donations. And this was all the way from employee giving, which it was incredible. Each employee was given $300 in-kind product that they were able to donate to any organization that they wanted to, which is such an incredible thing. And then also there were several other programs under, it was called the Brooks Booster Club at the time. So there was run grants, the return product, and then also actual just product that we were donating. When you look at all those like those numbers, we were donating around $11 million in product. And it's pretty wild the way I was going about tracking it at the time. It was either like reaching out to different teams to find out what had been donated, and reaching out to individuals, which was incredibly time consuming and didn't allow me to be focused on the larger strategy. And at that point, I was only tracking that on an annual basis. So essentially, throughout the year, leadership had no visibility into, hey, at the end of Q1, what is the amount of product that's been donated? What organizations have these been donated to? And are we on track to where we want to be? Like, there's no insights into that. So essentially, I created like a Excel spreadsheet that was just being sent around, and I had to do a ton of education internally to different groups of when you are donating, please put it into this format. And so once I had just like this basic spreadsheet, then I was able to start to shift or to educating employees internally about what we were doing. Once we had then just this baseline, though, for the next year of what was being donated, we could start to understand, okay, what groups are like we actually making a difference in sending our running shoes and apparel to? Is it youth organizations? Is it cancer survivor run groups? Is it like it was a full range of groups that we were donating to, and all of them had incredibly inspiring stories. But by having a foundation, though, of where the money was going,
Yeah.
we could then start to like evolve the program to who is it going to and where do we really want to make a difference? And does this difference of area that we're trying to impact, so aligned with like the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, does this actually like ladder back to our mission statement? Like, are we making a difference in the area that we really want to actually drive change? And it's pretty incredible how quickly the conversation was able to evolve as soon as you have the numbers. Um, and that's why it's so incredible that ethos tracking is able to help organizations input this information, and then get the insights and data around it. It completely shifts the conversation.
Well, I appreciate you saying it. And, I love kind of how you're framing it. And I'll just, kind of reiterate, to me, the magic is that it services two really important goals, right?
Mhm.
Like, number one, the internal lift for the people who are responsible for this. Like, if you're watching this and you're like, oh my God, that's my life, like, call
Yeah.
us. It doesn't have to be that hard, right? So just being able to take that off of people's plates, that kind of management stickiness, um, there's a better way. But the fact that you had the initiative to do it the old fashioned way, get it on the Excel chart is amazing. And then that's sort of like the second important point, which is once you have all of that data in front of you, it can be such a better resource for the company, right? And like we're talking about in kind right now, but really anything that you're doing that's creating value, if you can then say, here's how we're impacting community, here are the organizations that we're supporting. PS,
Mm.
does that match our mission, our stated mission? Question mark. Um, it's so important. And like we often see, I'm sure you did then too, it's not that you weren't giving to great organizations, but generally speaking, organizations end up receiving who are better at asking, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Because it's just something that you kind of need to service and nobody has enough time. So when you can take the time to make it, you know, more organized, more clear, and you can say, hey, like we say that we're doing A and B, but we're kind of only doing B. Let's go and put more emphasis into A. That's amazing. So I'd love just to hear, again, power chat. If you have an example of something that you think flipped or kind of opened up as a result of this better organization, if you can kind of say like, wow, like the time, the energy, the effort, the spreadsheets were worth it. Like, what was that aha moment for you as you created this in kind effort?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely just touched on it where we're able to like pivot the conversation. I was no longer spending like an incredible amount of hours just emailing people and trying to track information. That is a not a fun way to spend your time, but when you're able to kind of move past that and get the baseline going and get other people to start inputting information, the aha moment was really then once we had the numbers, we could then see like on a clear screen of what types of organizations we were impacting and then say where are we actually trying to move the needle. And ultimately I wasn't the decision maker who was saying where we wanted to have the money go, but I was able to provide the information in a very easy straightforward way of here's where the money's going, here's what we're seeing over time. Like let's as a group open up this conversation to figure out where do we want to like drive the program. um and then ultimately, that helps with the marketing of the actual giving program, which does make it easier in the end to then find ways to actually recruit new groups who are interested or provide more awareness to groups about what the impact could be for certain organizations. So then you actually end up getting more people applying for the grants or it's not just the people who knew about the grants in the past, it's making it a more inclusive thing, which at the end of the day is really where the
Yeah.
effort should be spent is driving inclusivity and making it easy to access these funds and making sure that these groups are aware of it. So
Amazing. Well, incredible. This is an incredible real world example of what we say every day, which is better data, better world, right? Like it really does make a difference when you have your information organized and in one place. I think the world of what you have built and really appreciate you taking the time. And if anyone out there is listening and wants to figure out how to engage with their in-kind information, we're both available on LinkedIn and, really believe in the power of in-kind. And for some organizations, it can actually outpace what you're able to do from a cash perspective. So thank you so much, Kiana, for taking the time. This has been
yeah,
delightful
thanks,
and
Emily.
excited to keep the conversations going.
Awesome.